What's up, meatbags? This is the often imitated, never duplicated TonyTGD, joined here by my man Blinded Braille for a random Wednesday stream. What's going on, Blinded?
What's up? Just kind of feeling a little sick a bit, but I'm good enough to talk.
Hopefully you get better for the big Christmas extravaganza. It's going to be huge.
Yes, it's gonna be fun.
So what I figured on Wednesday, I want to do a little more streaming. I figured a little more Blinded Braille, give you more screen time. It's hard to get screen time when we're 3-4 of us on a Saturday show.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, Me and Gary, we were supposed to do the Monday indie game stuff together. That morphed into me, Gary, and Carl because Gary was gone the second week. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully you don't no-show me, and then we end up back to where we started.
Yeah, no. My DMs are always open. Got notifications.
Hey, we got Josh in the house. What's up, Josh? So we're going to be talking about Hawkeye right off the beginning, and it appears that I've caught a huge L on this Hawkeye series. I was talking mad shit. I was running my mouth all over Mad Max's stream for the last couple of weeks. And boo-boo on me, I guess. Spoilers if you haven't seen Hawkeye. But the Kingpin does show up in a very blurry photograph. I'm not sure if that was Vincent D'Onofrio. Kind of looked like him, but at the same time, I was like, is it just a dude that kind of looks like him?
No, it's definitely him. His name's in the credits.
Is it? I didn't even look at the credits. Yeah. Man, I can't even catch a half a win on that.
Yeah, it's okay.
So what do you think about this last episode?
It was an okay episode. I will say the Kingpin reveal was definitely underwhelming, to say the least. I wish it was a little bit more dramatic, but I mean, what could you do? This episode was definitely a lot of, characters talking in rooms. There wasn't a lot of action per se. I mean, there was toward the ending half, but yeah, it was a decent episode. I'm not sure how they're gonna wrap everything up. I like the stuff with Yelena and Kate. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of a weak episode. Not like I said, not a lot of action. What we had was really, the stealth. Everybody's getting tripped and dragged on the cars, and been done a million times.
Mm-hmm.
I also agree that the Kingpin reveal was super weak, and there's so many questions from it. I mean, did he survive the snap? Did he use the 5-year gap to become the Kingpin? Was he always the Kingpin?
Mm-hmm.
How is he existing? How is Hawkeye allowing the Kingpin to be a thing without telling anybody? It's like, hey, he runs all the crime in New York, but I'm not going to let anybody know so we can take care of it.
Yeah, just super convenient.
Yeah, the mother, Eleanor, being revealed as working with the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm. And I have a theory on that. I still think she's Madame Mask, or Masquerade, whatever it is. Just because, I mean, there is a few scenes that haven't appeared yet where I think it's one where he's like in a dining hall. It's like some party Hawkeye's at, and he's like running through, and he jumps out the window. We have yet to see that. And the reason why I say Madame Mask is because that scene that was in the trailer is actually very similar to an issue of the Matt Fraction run, where they're at kind of like this gala event, and Madame Mask shows up, and Hawkeye jumps out the window while fighting her. Or I think he was pushed off the window or out the window in a chair, something along those lines. But since this show is taking very heavily from that comic, I'm kind of leaning toward that being the case. It is a lot. You still have Yelena and Kingpin, and I guess Jack and the clown. There's a lot of characters in this series, so
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think Jack is actually going to be the swordsman, or is it just going to be one of those cases where they use the name and then he's not actually anything?
I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the Swordman was like a villain or anti-hero, or he was on the Avengers, but I'm not really sure his like fate all that much.
All right. So
I'm pretty sure he was in the Matt Fraction run. I just can't really remember.
I think it was that was a different swordsman because
Okay.
the original swordsman, Jack Duquesne, he was a freedom fighter in a unnamed South Asian country. Uh,
Mhm.
then the populace turned on him. Basically, they were using him as a mercenary, and he thought he was like helping like revolutionaries. Turns out they were just terrorists. So
Mhm.
he gets disillusioned with life. Somehow ends up in the U.S. as a member of the Circus of Crime, where he teaches Hawkeye how to use a bow and arrow. Later on, we find out that Trickshot is actually the one who showed Hawkeye how to make the Trickshot arrows, because originally it was just Swordsman had taught him everything, but eventually they retconned it and introduced a new character.
Mhm.
Swordsman leaves the Circus of Crime, ends up going overseas, hooks up with the Mandarin. Mandarin gives him the fancy sword that can shoot blast. Comes back, fights the Avengers, uh, dies, gets resurrected, marries the Celestial Madonna, sort of joins the Avengers, and then kind of fucks off, and that's the end of the story.
Mhm.
And
Well, I
then at
mean,
some point there was a alternate reality, like an alternate universe version of the Swordsman that came over, and
okay. I mean, considering that, then I mean, I guess maybe we should have thought of it all along that he was a red herring in the show. Uh, I mean, kind of makes sense that that would be the twist, that he's actually somewhat innocent and or kind of involved, like, but not like evil, evil. But we'll see on that. I'm not too sure how they're gonna wrap up his storyline. I could definitely see him coming back though. And I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if the show didn't get a season two, just because Hawkeye in general doesn't do a lot. And I think the show needs a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot because there's a lot of characters. I could see them continuing that storyline with the the street level stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna wrap it up.
yeah. With the Swordsman, I mean, he supposedly killed his uncle,
Mhm.
so he's not exactly a innocent. It could be that he is working with the mother
I think it was
until
the
having.
mother who killed him because that was kind of what a lot of people were theorizing, and it did seem like that. I mean, they kind of set that up in the first episode that she was talking with him, and she obviously had some sort of vendetta against him.
Yeah, but my theory is that the whole being arrested was just a ruse in
Mm,
front of Kate, so that way she thinks, oh yeah, because obviously the mother didn't expect Kate to go back and help Hawkeye and everything, but I think it was just like,
mm,
yeah, look, I believed you, and Jack was bad, and I had him arrested, and then he would miraculously, be freed because evidence was, supplied that he wasn't guilty or whatever. So it could be that
mm,
he is the swordsman all along, working with the mother in that regards, or she could have set him up as a patsy, and that turns him into the swordsman because now he wants revenge. Because
mhm,
revenge does seem to be the big motivator.
That's like the core theme. Yeah, everybody's sort of out for revenge, especially with Echo now, who is probably going to be going after the Kingpin. So that's going to set up her series, and I'm sure, obviously just theorizing, but I wouldn't be surprised if a old Thornhead shows up. I think we all know who that is, but Um, yeah, I think, I mean, her character, I can understand, like, retaining to Echo, I can understand why she was introduced, but I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if her character kind of gets, you know, shafted in the finale just because we know that she's getting her own show. So I feel like, you know, they don't want to wrap up that storyline too quickly.
Yeah, it could be that the Kingpin kind of throws the mother to the dogs, and he takes off. That leads to Echo going after him and having her own
Mm,
show.
that too, yes.
Or we could end up seeing no resolution, and then you have to tune into Echo as sort of a make sure that you watch Echo by us not having any resolution to the Hawkeye series and forcing you.
Yeah, that's pretty typical of Marvel.
Yeah, but I do feel like you said, I don't know if I want to make predictions because my predictions have been pretty shitty. I didn't think that Yelena was going to come out in the show. She's come out, she was a huge part of this episode. I didn't think the Kingpin was coming out. He was a huge part of, or not a huge, but he was a big reveal at the end. I
Mhm.
bet he's gonna. Every episode seems to have sort of a backstory for a particular character.
Mm.
So we could either get a Kingpin backstory or the mother backstory. Uh, it might be revealed that the mother did in fact kill the dad, and then the Battle of New York just kind of coincidentally happened, and she got away with it. Like, oh no, I didn't kill him because the building collapsed on him.
Mm. I I could see that happening. I just think it's maybe a little too dark for Disney Plus or the Marvel series. Just because also, I mean, her dad hasn't played too much of a role. But I mean, if you want to say that she's like some just evil, terrible person, I guess that would complicate her relationship with Kate. So there's that. Um, but also another thing that I wanted to mention was I feel like there was a maybe this is my part a little confusion on Yelena because at the end of Black Widow in the post credit scene, she was set up by Madame Hydra to. It seemed like Madame Hydra was like, "Oh, you should go kill Clint, right?"
Yeah,
But then she got hired by Kate's mom, so it just was like, she was already going to do it. So, when did this whole transaction already happen? Like, why did it seem like the mom recently hired her to take out Clint, right? So,
yeah. Well, we know that at the end of Black Widow, I think that was supposed to be in the future because
okay.
I think that she was visiting her. That was like an anniversary of her death. Remember, because Natasha's dead.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like the post credit scene was leading into this show, right? Because she already had the vendetta for Clint.
Right,
So,
right. But
yeah,
what I'm
so
saying is,
it.
um, not
Mhm.
to cut you off, but what I'm saying is, remember, um, what the hell's her name? It's not Madam Hydra, not
Well,
yet. It's
yeah, not yet, but Valve or whatever her name is.
Fontaine, whatever.
Mhm.
She had like an envelope. Remember, she had like an envelope. Was like, here, this is the guy that killed. They could just say that Eleanor hired the Black Widow through Fontaine,
Mhm.
and Fontaine, knowing that Yelena would, be the best candidate to take out Clint, was like, "Hey, I got a job for you."
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that would make sense. Madam Mask, I'd have to do a little because I am not too familiar with the character, but um, maybe she does have ties to Madam Hydra. I'm not sure if she was part of Hydra, but I guess that would actually work out nicely. Maybe we could get a cat. I mean, it's a lot of characters cameoing, but I don't know if she's going to appear in this show, Madam Hydra or Val.
Yeah, uh, I know Madam Mask is connected to Count Nefaria, who was connected to the Magia, which is connected to the Kingpin.
Mhm.
So they could be blending characters together.
Mhm. Yeah, the MCU tends to keep things simplistic, just to avoid complex storylines and stuff like that.
I could see because Marvel has a tendency to give every villain sort of an excuse or justification. I'm not evil. I was beaten. I'm not evil. I was stealing because my kids got cancer. So I
Hmm.
could see that maybe there's no insurance on the house, or the insurance doesn't cover alien invasions, and the
Hmm.
Kingpin, knowing that she would be a good pawn, covers the expenses and lets her keep the house or the apartment, wherever the hell it is.
Hmm.
And that's why she still has money, and that's why she ends up working for him. Like, she wasn't evil, but she kind of got sucked into it, and now this is where we're at.
Hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that too.
So we got a lot of people in the chat now. We got F1J, we got NS, we got Luke Skywalker, Josh was here, Dotchin Newbin, uh, Alkanax Clean, Luke Skywalker. Um, so, we're just here to, chat, talk, discuss some weird, wacky stuff on a Wednesday. You got any more thoughts on Hawkeye?
Um, Not really. I know it's kind of was a big episode for the reveal, but I didn't really, you know, it didn't captivate me as much. But I will be watching the season finale, of course, and hopefully it makes up.
Yeah, we get to see them in their snazzy new costumes in the next episode.
Hmm. So that's cool.
Yeah, uh, there's just so much. I'm planning to be disappointed in the finale. I don't know why, but I know there's going to be loose ends that are going to make me so mad.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Uh, you excited for Spider-Man? We got No Way Home is coming out pretty soon.
Uh, yes. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I mean, I'm gonna wait obviously for my, to see it. I plan on seeing it in IMAX, but I don't know, just so much coverage on it is kind of making me go, like I was very excited, very hyped, but um, yeah, sometimes it's just like Marvel overload just happening where I just need to like take a break, watch something else or do something else. But I will be seeing it, and hopefully, it lives up to, you know, the expectations, which mine are pretty low. Like I'm gonna keep it middle, even though I know what's in the film. But yeah, I'm hoping it's not like The Force Awakens. That's kind of the direction I'm heading toward.
Yeah, and again, a spoiler alert. I was wrong. Um, all three Spider-Men do show up in the movie.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to be spoiled, Wikipedia does have the full synopsis of the movie
Hmm.
currently available. Do you care about spoilers? Is that a big
No,
concern
I'm
for you?
not. I don't really care so much. I already spoiled the movie completely for myself.
Yeah. Personally, I don't care about spoilers. I used to be a big, I need to wait and not be spoiled, but now I'm like, at least I'll know what to expect. I don't, I'm
Hmm.
not like, oh my god, this was disappointing because I knew what was coming. It's not like you get a complete, breakdown moment to moment. Every line, every
Hmm.
little detail.
Yeah, I've never really been too big on spoilers. If I can know a movie and the experience of actually seeing it in the theater or, actually visually seeing it in general, is always going to be my first experience, no matter if I read the wiki or see a leak. It's not going to bother me as much. But I am very hesitant surrounding this film because it is getting a lot of praise, and um, I feel like I think people are going to. This is a hot take. I'm just going to keep it real, but I think this is a nostalgia movie, and I don't think it's going to be all that interesting. And I am a big fan of the Tom Holland Spider-Man, so I'm kind of a little bit worried that the villains and the two other Spider-Men are gonna overshadow him in a way, and I feel like it may be the case, at least for me personally, of course, because I know people they want Toby and Andrew. So
Yeah. You know, like I said, I'm not really. I'm no longer concerned myself with spoilers because doing this, doing the other content that I do on the website. I got to be on the internet. I got to see what's going on. I got to read other things, and it's really hard to avoid spoilers nowadays because as soon as you open up Twitter, as soon as you open up freaking Google, you're getting bombarded with all these stories and videos and tweets, Instagram posts, Reddit
yes,
posts. You can't go nowhere.
especially because it's the hottest movie of this whole year. Of course, people are going to spoil it, especially because people wanted to know if Toby and Andrew were going to be in it, right? So
Yeah,
it only makes sense.
uh, but I was wrong. They were confirmed to be in it. What's shocking to
But
me is there's only 5 villains. We get denied a Sinister Six.
yeah, which is something I don't understand. I don't understand why they couldn't include Rhino from the Amazing Spider-Man. I think that was a missed opportunity to reinvent the character, especially because they did it to Electro. So why not Rhino? I don't get it.
Yeah, and we didn't even get the Vulture doesn't show up, from my
Nope.
understanding. They hinted in the first Spider-Man, was it Homecoming, that the one character was Matt Gargan.
Scorpion.
Yeah,
Yes.
Scorpion. He doesn't show up.
Yep.
From
And
my
that
understanding,
storyline is completely thrown out as well
yeah, because
at
it
the
looked
end
like
of
he was
this
building
movie.
the Sinister Six. The Vulture. It looked like the Vulture. What do we have? Vulture, Mysterio,
Scorpion.
Scorpion. From my understanding, one of the scrolls was
Hmm.
named Dimitri. Uh,
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one, him being a chameleon.
yeah,
Uh, it was kind of like a theory that was going around, but it never got, confirmed or debunked.
yeah. Well, he was at least the version of Dimitri that was shown. He had a foreign accent, had the name.
Hmm.
They could have easily just said, you know what, in this universe, the chameleon is a rogue uh,
Squirrel.
scroll that decided,
Yeah,
he wants to be bad or whatever,
that would
and
be an
go with it,
interesting take.
his little origin. Then again, I know they said they wanted Craven to get his own movie, so that took him off the table.
Hmm. Which is very disappointing because the rumored or the not rumored, but a lot of people wanted actually like what Craven to be from Wakanda, which would be an interesting take on the character. It's a little different from him being Russian and such, but um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff they could have done with Spider-Man villains and mashing it up with MCU lore, but I guess
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right, Mitty. Have a good sleep. Thanks for dropping by. Luke says that he hates spoilers, and he rarely watches trailers because of them. Uh,
Hmm. Well, we just
again,
spoiled
yeah,
the movie.
once again, because what I do here and what I do on the website, I kind of have to watch trailers. I have to kind of keep up with the Joneses, as it were,
Mm,
know what's going on. I do think that studios, editing trailers to be misleading, or removing CGI or adding CGI, or straight up, showing you deleted scene in the trailer that's never in the movie. I think that's kind of scummy.
mm.
And I'm not sure how they get away with that, but
I don't mind misdirects, but I mean, trailers more are become an art form, right? So I'm not too bothered by it, but it is a form of marketing and advertisement. So I I can definitely see that point.
yeah. Luke says he's more excited to see Morbius than the new Spider-Man. You excited for the Morbius movie?
No, I have no real interest to be honest. I will still watch it, but not interested.
Uh, I wasn't too interested in it, but now with what they're saying, the MCU and the Sony universe kind of
Hmm.
combining.
Well, actually, I don't know if I should people in the chat, but there's a post-credit scene that kind of throws that whole idea out the window in No Way Home.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I won't spoil it, but we do know that um, the Vulture, that was confirmed that was him in the
Yes,
Morbius trailer,
he is in the trailer, correct?
right? And so we know that Spider-Man is in the MCU. Venom
Hmm.
was the only one that was outside of the MCU.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, so I guess that would make sense for Morbius to be in the MCU.
So, like I said, with Morbius in the MCU, with them sharing the universes, and Blade coming out.
Hmm. But there's also some inconsistency with that because he in the trailer he says I'm Venom, right? He makes like a little joke about it. So how does he know who Venom is if Venom isn't even a prominent character in the MCU?
Well, like I said, they could always edit that out of the movie. It's only in the trailer.
Hmm. Yeah, that could be the case. We'll see.
Yeah, Bing Bang, Boop Bop Boy Yoy Yoing Amiko Cuckoo. Yeah, I need those members. I don't have memberships, but you can subscribe.
Yeah, sub to the channel.
Uh, any other MCU stuff you're interested in right now? Anything you're waiting for? We got the Moon Knight series coming out.
Yes, I am excited for Moon Knight, but I'm going to be honest. I just want to break from the MCU a little bit. Um, I'm looking forward to just no news or anything coming out. I just want a clean slate for Moon Knight, which will probably come out. The rumor is March now, um, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, nothing really besides Moon Knight. I guess Doctor Strange too, of course, and um, that's really it.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for Moon Knight. I want to know how they're gonna handle it exactly. With the mysticism and the mental disorders.
Hmm.
Plus, what city he's gonna be, busting heads in, because there's been a lot of action in New York, not so much anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty typical for the Marvel universe, though. It seems like every character exists in New York City. It's very odd.
Yeah, I mean they had to create a whole West Coast Avengers just to make California have crime.
Hmm.
So that's going to be interesting to see where they set it up, where he takes place. If they have the Egyptian gods exist, or if he's just crazy and they're not real.
Hmm.
Uh, because if you
Well, I
have the
hope Khonshu's in it.
yeah, but
Khonshu
like I'm saying,
was a pretty uh, big addition in the recent Moon Knight comics, and I feel like that would be something Oscar Isaac would want to do. as an actor.
But do you feel like it's going to be, a hallucination type deal where Khonshu isn't actually real, or is it going to be like a Thor type situation where yeah, he's a dude that exists?
Um, I kind of hope they make it a little bit ambiguous. It seemed like from the sizzle reel that we got, there is a bit of hallucination going on where he sees his reflection and it stays there after he leaves. And I think, to be honest, if the MCU wants to keep things fresh, it would be better if it was a slightly ambiguous. Obviously, I know that would kind of complicate things a little bit, but Moon Knight tends to be a little distant from the rest of the MCU, or the Marvel universe. Um, but I mean, obviously, he's been on the Avengers, the Secret Avengers, and stuff like that. But I think the MCU would benefit from him being more street level and not interacting with, every single character or whatever it may be. That's just my take, though.
Yeah, they need to make him more of the MCU Batman.
Mm,
F1 JV is incorrect. DC is not more New York centric because New York does not exist in the DC universe.
yes. I mean, Gotham is, a stand-in for New York, but you could say that about,
Actually, it's
oh,
not.
it's not.
No, Gotham is Boston. Metropolis is New York.
Oh, well, I know Metropolis was actually based on Toronto, where I'm from, because
Yeah,
the original writers were from Toronto. Even the what's it called? I'm forgetting. The Daily Planet was actually based on the Toronto Star.
yeah, because Central City is supposed to be uh, somewhere in the Midwest. It
Mm,
varies from comic to comic. Sometimes it's Iowa. It's in Iowa. Sometimes it's in Illinois.
mm,
Then you got Coast City. Forget what the hell that. I'm not like I said. I'm not really a big DC fan. I just know that
yeah.
it doesn't exist within the regular world. And Metropolis is New York light.
Hmm. Yeah, they're pretty much stand-ins for. They kind of change it around. DC's
Atari
all over
Dude
the place.
says Atari Dude says Metropolis is more like New York during the day. I'm guessing what got cut off was Gotham is more like New York during the night.
Mm,
Yeah, so I do know that there was an official word on it because Bloodhaven's like New Jersey or something, right?
something like that. Yeah, it's like outside of. Yeah, I could see that.
It's one of those weird things because there's really nothing. There's not a city that exists. There's not a actual Gotham City or Metropolis or Central City
Yep.
because I think you know in the movies at least there is a Statue of Liberty in Superman movies. I don't remember if there is any in the Batman movies.
Mm, yeah, I don't actually know about that. I'll probably have to look it up because I know the movies at least for the DC movies, they kind of change a lot of things. And on top of that, too, DC tends to change its continuity a lot. Right now, obviously, they have like the old continuity merged with the new 52. So a lot of stuff that happened in the new 52, which was drastically different, um, has now been merged or in continuity with, the old or main DC continuity. It's a little confusing compared to Marvel because Marvel hasn't, done a reboot like DC has, or at least on the scale of like Rebirth and Flashpoint and Final Crisis and things like that. Or not Final Crisis, but Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever it is. The classic Superman holding Supergirl.
Yeah. And then I think again, I think the Empire State Building is in Metropolis, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, I have no clue about these landmarks in the comics. No.
I'm just thinking of the movie because I'm pretty sure in the Superman Christopher Reeves one, it is
Mm,
100% New York.
okay, yeah, I haven't watched that movie since I was a kid, so I have no real recollection. I just know like the basic plot beats.
So what do you think about that Snyderverse? I heard that's the hot topic on Twitter right now.
Uh yeah. I mean, I'm never listen, I'm not too big onto it, to be honest. I did like the Snyder Cut. I thought it was a bit of a improvement compared to the theatrical cut. But I've never really been a big fan of Zack Snyder. To be honest, I don't like his Watchmen ending. I think it makes no sense even for the movie itself. Um, and to be honest, I wasn't that interested in his DC universe. Um, so, I mean, people want it because I think it is different compared to what we're getting with Marvel. And I guess the other Warner Brothers DC content. But I don't want to tell anybody to not lose any hope, but at the same time, I feel like there's enough evidence to suggest that it's not happening. The closest you'll get is probably Zack Snyder, produces a Snyderverse movie, right? Or a comic or something along those lines. But I cannot see a Snyder directed DC movie in the next 5 to 8 years. I can't see it happening. And the man is he's in his 50s, so that's also something to consider.
Yeah, I do know that there was some kind of controversy between the two Suicide Squads or something. One's considered a Snyder film and one isn't. Uh,
Hmm.
do you have any more information on that? Because I'm confused by all this. I don't really dive deep into the Snyder stuff.
Um, I I really don't know about the recent stuff. I haven't really paid too much attention of what the controversy is. But if I were to guess, and people could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is the same old back and forth argument just reignited again.
Yeah, because I know the original Suicide Squad is directed by David Ayer. Uh,
Hmm.
the Suicide Squad is directed by James Gunn. Both movies executive producer by Zack Snyder.
Hmm. Which is just really a formality credit. That's usually what the executive role is. Doesn't necessarily mean that they had, um, you know, wasn't even on set. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's it's just more of a formality, thing in Hollywood, the executive producer position.
yeah. I will tell you, I did like 300. That was a decent movie, but it was based on a comic. Um,
Yeah, the Frank Miller comic.
I wasn't a big fan of Watchmen. Sucker Punch was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know the hype behind that movie.
Man of Steel, did not like the movie. I don't remember there being any love for that movie when it came out. I remember everybody hated it, uh, tearing it to shreds. Longtime DC fans, longtime Superman fans hated the movie.
Hmm.
So I don't know where this like retroactively like pretending like this was a great movie and everybody loved it came from.
I think it was more so started with Batman versus Superman because there was a lot of people who, they were in the minority, but they came out and they said, they actually love Batman versus Superman and how it was, improved on Man of Steel. and the direction that it was going in. I wouldn't necessarily say that the Snyder movement started with Man of Steel, but more so Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, but I mean, it still was like sort of a when we got to the Snyder cut. Uh, I do know like now people are like, oh yeah, Man of Steel is good. It's a great movie. I'm like, when it came out, no one was saying it was real. Everyone was like, this movie's
Mm.
garbage. Like, is it just a great movie because now it's connected to the Snyderverse?
Uh, I don't know. There was like I seen. I can't really speak in general, but I did see like John Campia when it came out. He did kind of like it. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like I didn't you know think much of it at the time when it came out. And I still don't really think much of it. I think it's not a terrible movie, but it is a little on the nose and it is a little bit pretentious at times. And I think it throws away a lot of the Superman mythology to modernize it or make it grounded. Um, and I just didn't really like the ending. I think the ending was, CGI train wreck. It gave me a headache. If to be honest, it wouldn't be as bad in my mind if that whole last act didn't happen. Like if it was a bit more low key, I wouldn't have mind.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. Like you said, I grew up on the Christopher Reeves Superman. I grew up on clean cut Boy Scout Superman does no wrong.
Mm.
Um, then the whole snapping of the neck of Zod. Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Man of Steel, Superman kills somebody.
Hmm.
I don't think it was earned. I always say like that seemed like a third movie type situation, or at the very least a
Mm.
second movie.
Well, I
But
think just to play, I guess, devil's advocate, the Snyderverse fans' argument is that the Snyder Superman isn't actually Superman; he's becoming Superman, right? Which I mean, like I could see that, but at the same time, there was really no clear direction. Like it seemed like he was going to consistently not be Superman up until I don't know the ending of this supposed 5-part movie that Snyder had planned, right? So it's like a little bizarre to me that you would have a character not become the character until the end of your whole cinematic universe or a trilogy of movies. But I mean, I think Superman is a hard character to crack, just because people may say it's his power set is it creates a bit of a dilemma for the plot and the story. Um, and I think fans do get hooked up on power sets and who's more powerful, and you know, it's never been something that's interested me all that much. I care more about the story itself. Granted, if there is some logical inconsistencies, then yeah, I will definitely nitpick that or complain about it. Um, but I don't know. I feel like people, like I've always been saying this, people kind of need to appreciate the Snyderverse or the Snyder Cut for what it was and move on. There's other DC content. Snyder didn't invent Batman and Superman and all these other characters. So, you know, like I still see Zack Snyder as like what Frank Miller did to the Batman, right? With the Dark Knight Returns. Just a kind of one-off, a interpretation of those characters, um, and that's really it, right? You can move on.
you could, I think they should have just had Superman fight a giant spider like Kevin Smith wanted.
Mm. Or the Tim Burton supposed Superman movie. That would have been probably a bit more entertaining, even if it was bad. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I think Superman, uh, you could crack his whole power and everything if you just show that he can't outsmart Lex Luthor, right? Remember, Lex
Mhm.
Luthor's greatest power is his mind. He doesn't have any strength, and Superman can't just punch him to death. Uh,
Mm.
There's a real good episode of Justice League Unlimited. I believe it's
Mm,
Unlimited, where Lex Luthor tricks Superman into thinking that he's planted something underneath. Um, it's like a new, I don't want to say homeless place. It's like Lex Luthor builds like a little city for homeless people or something. He tricks
okay.
Superman into thinking that there's something underneath it that's going to blow up and kill a bunch of people. So that makes Superman try to like dig out the city, and he's destroying it. So he ends up in a fight with Shazam, and it turns out that there was nothing there. That there was Kryptonian powered generators that were going to supply power to the city, and everyone turns on Superman thinking that he's an asshole because he just destroyed this little city that Lex built.
Mm,
I think something like that, where Lex Luthor uses his mind, uh, and Superman, legally can't like prove that he's a villain. So it's just like
mhm,
back and forth. Like you're super powerful and you could stop any crime and do anything, but you're powerless against Lex Luthor's brain.
mm. Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting storyline. I feel like it also kind of parallels kind of what they did with Captain America in the MCU. Um, and I feel like that's the route that DC should go, is like to put the character in a moral uh, conundrum, if you will. Right? Because in The Winter Soldier, Captain America is obviously put at odds with his moral values, right? So it makes the character, even though he doesn't grow throughout the movie, it still creates conflict, right? Where he has to now kind of justify his position, right? And I
Yeah,
think also that could be done with Superman. Yeah, something a little bit more intellectual than let's have him, beat the crap out of Brainiac or, his other villains, right? But I mean, it's been so long since we've gotten a Superman movie, like, and I know they're trying to reboot it and do this Black Superman, um, which I'm not that big of a fan of. I think I don't know. It just seems a little bit too on the nose, and I think a lot of people's critique of Superman being a white savior or white supremacy character, not in the um, more of a like a I don't even know how to like describe it, but let's just for the sake of the argument say a white supremacy character, because that's been the argument that's been thrown around, which I do not agree with. Superman was created by two Jewish dudes, and the whole point of the character was that he was a champion of minorities and the oppressed. So I mean, I think they should go back to those roots. Look at, the old 40s cartoon Superman, come up with a new visual style. I wouldn't even mind if they got J.J. Abrams, because he's supposedly in talks to direct this new Black Superman. But in general, I think he would make a really good fit for the character. His visual style really matches. So we'll see.
what I want to see for a Superman movie, I want them to finally address I think it was the '50s Superman, where you would
Mhm.
have the robber shoot at Superman. Superman stands there and the bullets bounce off him. Then the robber would throw the gun at Superman and Superman would move.
Mm,
I want them to, throw that as an Easter egg. Have some guy shoot at Superman. No, nothing happens. He throws the gun, but Superman doesn't move. The gun hits him and is like, why did you think that was going to work?
mm. Yeah, that would recreating something like that would be very interesting. They haven't really this is what I mean. Yeah, they haven't done much with their characters. Like we're getting DC movies, but it's like you haven't really adapted or really even shown us all these characters. Like they haven't done the Bat Family. It's just insane to me. What DC's doing and Warner Brothers. I think it's kind of sad. Um, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have the deep uh, lore to all of DC like some people do. Uh, but a lot of what I see, like Batman versus Superman, they did nothing. There was like nothing done with Batman. You really didn't know any of his backstory. It's just, hey, we're gonna drop a bunch of little Easter eggs or hints at things that maybe happen, and we're never gonna tell you anything.
Hmm.
Batman just
Yeah,
exists. Deal with it.
yeah. They sort of do that. Snyder does that where it just seems like he wants to critique or like do his version of the characters, right? It's not an adaptation; it's like an interpretation of the characters, and I can understand why people have latched onto it. But at the same time, it's like they need to at least establish or show people, the other stories um, that has been done in the comics, right? Or I just feel like these comic book movies, like the problem is they they either want to have their own interpretation or they want to adapt, but they never actually do. Um, like how do I explain this? Like they never actually bring the heart and the message that these characters represent in the comics, right, into an original story or into an adapted story, right? Like we haven't gotten, you know, even though I don't really need this, but we haven't gotten a Killing Joke adaptation in live action, right? That explores Joker and Batman's relationship, right? And I think that's a whole conversation within itself about um, their relationship because it is very interesting, and I don't think the Nolan movies have ever, you know, gone that deep into because they're not really just this um, a yin and yang of the order versus chaos. It is that, but I think that's very surface level. There's a lot more exploration, especially just the ending of Killing Joke. That last panel explains their relationship very well. That joke that Joker tells. It's still a classic in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. It's
And Batman does kill Joker at the end of that.
well, technically no, he doesn't. That would kind of ruin the joke, the joke of it. It was just a theory that people had, but it actually just ends with them laughing. That's really it. Um, yeah, it, the whole point of the ending of it was so Joker tells this joke to Batman, where these two men are escaping from an asylum, and one man jumps over, and the other one is like, "Oh, I'm not gonna jump over," right? So the other guy that's on the other side. He finds a flashlight, and he's like, "I'll shine the the light on the beam, right?" And the other one who hasn't jumped tells him, "What do you think I am, crazy? You're just going to turn it off, right?" Because I guess he thought the other guy is referring to the beam of light, right, that he supposedly is going to walk on. I explained that a little too confusing, but it's very simplistic in the comic, right? But the whole point of that joke is actually that the guy who doesn't want to jump is Joker, and the guy who is trying to bring this other guy to the other side is Batman, right? And the
Yeah.
whole point of it is that Joker doesn't really trust Batman, right? He doesn't really trust him, but at the same time, they're kind of integral to each other, right? They kind of need each other for help and support, or I don't want to say support and help, but that dynamic that they have, right? Because without it, someone's gonna it just doesn't work. I don't know if I explained that properly, but you have one person who I would have to write down my thoughts on this to be honest, because I'm going all over the place and I don't think it makes any sense. Um, but that's something I've always wanted to write about. Those two characters. I'll just leave it as that because I feel like it is a little confusing what I'm saying.
I will say that I know everybody loves the Killing Joke. Everybody says it's so brilliant. It's one of the most brilliant things. But one man does not think it's a good book. He doesn't think it's a brilliant book. He just thinks it's a meh. And that's the actual writer himself, Alan Moore, who seems to
Yes.
shit on everything that he does. Uh,
Yeah, not that big of a surprise. It's Alan Moore. He shits on. I mean, he's come out and said, you know, comic books are for children, even though
yeah,
he
but
made
he wrote
Watchmen.
he wrote the Killing Joke.
Yeah, I know. I know. This is Alan Moore. You just
Yeah,
look up Alan Moore. He's
I know that's what I'm
very.
saying. Like the man just shits on his own work. Like no, it's crap. I think he just does that because he wants to hear more praise. Like he tells you it's crap, so you try to convince him that it's not crap. Like no, it's crap, and tell me why
Um,
it's not crap.
I think he's become jaded. That's really it. I don't think he had this opinion up until recently because he's been screwed by DC. Like so, like uh, he stopped working for DC after the whole Watchmen fiasco, where they basically said, "Hey, create this original story. We'll publish it, and you get to own the rights." Turns out that wasn't the case, and they actually kept the rights to Watchmen. So that's why if you go and watch like the Watchmen movie or the TV series, they actually don't credit Alan Moore because he said, "Please don't credit me because it's not my work anymore. It's DC's work." So they only credit the artists.
Yeah. Uh,
Yep.
I know he shit on League of the Extraordinary Gentlemen. I thought that was a
Hmm.
decent film. I like it. It's a fun little film.
I haven't seen it, but
Uh, Now to get to the comment here, F1JV says, "How about just human characters or out of this world characters? Having to take characters and change their human skin tone for all the super characters. Stop. Just make new characters." Well, here's the thing. Like Velzad is a new character. What's up, Ray? I see you're popped in the chat. Velzad, the Black Superman, he is a new character. He's different. He's not like they just changed Clark Kent's skin tone, and he has the exact same story, backstory, friends, life, and
mhm.
everything. It's more or less like, what if you know Kryptonians were African American looking, and he landed on Earth, and that's the
Yeah.
story we got instead of Caucasian looking landing in Kansas. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. But here's the thing: for that Black Superman movie, it is actually Clark Kent. This
They're
was
not doing Velzad. They're doing Clark Kent.
Well, this is why it's very confusing. They're doing a Vel Zod TV series with Michael B. Jordan, um, and then they're doing this Clark Kent race swapped movie with J.J. Abrams and this comic book writer. Well, he's not a comic book writer. He's done, written other things, but he's been, he wrote the recent Black Panther run, and I think he was just writing Captain America. I forget his name. It's a little hard to pronounce, so yeah, I'm not going to butcher it.
Yeah. It, I, it makes no. I don't see why. Uh, hey, what's up, obsessive? He wants to pop on. Yeah, let me. I
Sure.
mean, they have a black Superman, Kelvin Ellis, I
Hmm.
believe is his human name. I don't know why they wouldn't just use that. Um,
I think this movie is going to be like they're trying to make it like Black Panther, right? That's why I was talking about the whole Superman being a white supremacy character or representing white power or whatever it may be, even though that is not the case. That's not the intentions of the character. And anybody who interprets it that way doesn't understand the character at all. So, and I think, that's why we haven't seen a Superman movie, is because it is kind of like, I don't know, they see it as problematic, um, which I don't agree at all. You just haven't played into the whole oppression. a champion of oppression and, you know, what the character was originally intended.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Superman is blonde hair, blue eyed. Um,
No.
you know,
But people think Superman has come from, why am I forgetting this philosopher's name? Nietzsche's, right? Friedrich Nietzsche. His idea that was called the Superman or the Uberman.
the
Um,
Ubermesh.
yeah, the Ubermensch, yes. Yeah, so people for some reason think that's where Superman came from. That's not the case. There's no ties to that whole idea, which that idea is somewhat problematic, but at the same time, surface level, it wasn't. Um, but that's a whole other conversation. But it's just, I don't know. Like I even had like a Twitter fight with someone who was claiming this, and it was like, no, I don't know where people come up with this stuff. Just because, you know, that whole thing is the whole title of that philosophy is called, you know, translated Superman, doesn't mean that that's where the inspiration for Clark Kent came from. It's just mind boggling.
Yeah, I think Superman, like he's a Superman, you know,
Mhm.
versus Nietzsche's Ubermensch, which was more of a it is translated to Superman, but I think it was more of a like better man, superior man.
Mhm.
I think that's a better
Yes.
translation. So they're not identical, even in name, um, nor are they identical in philosophy. Superman is a alien that comes over, whereas the Ubermensch was, you know, the superior genetic human who should rule over the not so pure.
Mhm.
Very
Well, it
equally
was
to
it, there was a that because Nietzsche was, I'm pretty sure he was an anti-Semite. Uh, Sorry to get political here, but I mean it is true.
it's
Uh,
historical.
yeah, it's historical, right? So, but a lot of his texts you could technically read without that. But you know, it's problematic regardless. But I just don't see how anybody can connect Superman, which was created by two Jewish creators, with the intention of him being, you know, a representation of all minorities. You know, that's why they even have this. It wasn't a comic, but it was a radio drama where Superman beats up the Klansman. That is, you know, was a, you know, it was in the, I think, 30s, uh, whenever that radio drama was.
Whoa.
Oh, what's up?
What's going on, Gary?
Not much. Sorry about the echo, guys.
That's all right.
You were saying that
Not
there was
not much. Hold on. I might have to pop back in and out because I'm getting like a double, triple echo here.
all right. So you said there was a radio play with Superman beating up Klansmen.
Yes.
Yeah.
This yeah.
I've never seen. You know, I am not white. Spoiler alert.
Same. Well, technically, but
No, we'll circle back to the technically, but I'm not white, and I've never like, oh my god, you know, Superman is oppressing me, or he stands for the oppressor. I don't know, maybe I'm built different.
mhm.
Uh,
Well, I mean that was, um, you know, like I said, the character's title. If you know the original intention, right? This is in the comics. His subtitle was Superman, the champion of the oppressed. And you know, in interviews, I forget the two creators' name, but they talked about it extensively that they always wanted a character who represented, you know, the people who were, you know, disenfranchised or bullied in society for, you know, their race, religion, or whatever it may be, right? Obviously, back then, a little bit more. not politically correct, but obviously they didn't mention the LGBT or whatever it may be, right? But you could kind of fit, I feel like, those ideas still into that character at the time. It's just sort of it's been a part of the character, but I guess as over time it's kind of faded away. It's especially because of the comics code, right? That was a big kind of deal for a lot of superhero comics.
Yeah. The whole philosophy of the Ubermensch is so disconnected from Superman that even trying to claim that that's where it came from or that's where the idea percolated is so insanely stupid that I wouldn't even bother. If someone were to tell me that, I would just be like, okay, whatever, and go about my day because they're not worth the time to argue with.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous claim, but at the same time, it seems like a claim that's catched on with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of articles written about this, like academic journals written about this. And, people, I mean, this is the reason why they're race swapping Clark Kent, which I think is a little bit insane, just to capitalize on Black Panther, right? Which is egregious, in my opinion. It's egregious. Yeah.
What do you think about it, Gary?
Okay, so kind of catch me up to speed on what you. I think I got an idea of what you guys were talking about.
We were discussing. We started off at the Snyderverse. We were discussing, how we don't feel that Superman's been done justice. Then we started talking about how there's going to be a new Superman movie where they're going to race swap Clark Kent, and he's going to be a African American.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that because, like I've said before, I liked like Sam Jackson as I know you said the Nick Fury. I always had the thought that he was like that the other Nick Fury. But they've done it to other characters before. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem when they change like the core character like the race really doesn't have anything to do with it, but I could bring up an example, but I'd probably be hated for bringing up the example. But I think certain characters should be left alone. I mean, it's not like a race thing. It's not like I'm racist because I don't want to see it. I just think characters should be left in their original form. I mean, that's why you can do like spinoffs and different kind of like, I mean, how many different versions of Spider-Man do they have? You know what I mean? And I don't have a problem. Like, not even just like the race of Spider-Man, but like different suits, you can always go down the line and create different, alternative kind of character, like the same character, but it's not a thing that like drives me nuts. More in movies than it really probably does in comic books. But I mean, it's not a super huge deal. It all depends. And I'm not like big into like Superman stuff. And, I know a little bit, but I don't think I'm like a huge Superman fan. So it depends what it goes against. Like if there's certain things that it goes against in his like backstory, then it doesn't make sense to me unless you're going to change the whole character. And then if you're going to change the whole character, why didn't you just give him like a alternate kind of costume or a name? Or I mean, if you're going to do all those things, I think it's okay. I mean, because you're kind of like tarnishing what the original is in a sense. You should just kind of do a different thing. But everybody wants to be included today, and that's the problem. That's why. I hear that like comic books have kind of gone bust because they're all like Marvel's really woke these days with the stuff that they're putting out. That's what I heard. And then I watched a documentary on I can't remember if it was on Disney Plus. There was like a documentary about like Marvel back in the day and the kind of like the racist stuff they were going through and stuff back in like the 70s or whatever. And
you can't trust a documentary by the company that makes the comics.
Making it.
Well, it was definitely like a woke documentary, and it's not that I have a problem with you like them doing things like that, but their fan base, from what I heard, is the fan base don't want it. Is that true? Like the woke stuff that they're kind of throwing out there, that these like the guys who are collecting these and reading these, they don't want nothing to do with it. At least that's what I heard.
Well,
There
here's my
is
take
that
on it.
group. Yeah.
I say here's my take on it. The problem, in my opinion, isn't the woke stuff. It is all the writing that surrounds the woke stuff. Like having a character come out as gay or trans or whatever, right? As long as you build the story good, there isn't an issue. Northstar in Marvel Comics, he's gay. There was never any big backlash. Living Lightning came out as gay. There was no big backlash.
But what you're saying is they're focusing around the fact that they're transgender or gay, something like that. They're not really writing the story. They're making that the story.
Well, let me give you a perfect example. When Northstar came out, he was gay. He was just like, hey, I like dudes, whatever, right? That's my thing. Iceman was told by Jean Grey that he's gay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. That was recently.
And this is literally a character that has had relationships with women, the adult version, because this was the teen version from a time warp or some bullshit. But basically, Jean Grey was like, "You're gay. I looked in your mind, and you're gay." And he's like, "But adult me likes chicks, and has been banging chicks for the last 20 years." And she's like, "No." She's like, the reason why you've never settled down is because you're secretly gay. And you just bang chicks to like pretend that you're gay. Just be gay. And then he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm gay." Like it was so badly written, like.
And that seems kind of like this. Like, I don't want to say that's what goes on, but I almost feel like, I mean, that seems like the stereotypical stuff that you've heard before, like something that I would have maybe heard from somebody, or whether it's true or not is a different story. But the coming out of the closet kind of story, and it's like, no, I'm not gay. No, you're gay. And I've heard that kind of thing before. So that is kind of awful. If they're basing their stories around stuff like that, like like I've said before, I don't care about anybody's preference as long as like they're a good person. I don't see what the issue is. The woke stuff, like I could deal with it. Like you said with the He-Man. I think people probably got up in arms. And I was kind of following it, like, oh, this probably will suck. Everybody's saying it sucks, but it's just people who are pissed off their opinion. Like, I could deal with it. It's not a big deal. It's not going to like affect me at the end of the day. If I don't like it, I probably won't watch it, but it won't be for that reason. As long as, like you said, Tony, as long as the writing's good and they're not focusing around that subject. Because I feel like there was a show that came out. It was like, who are the people who make The Simpsons? There was like there's like a medieval one. I can't remember the name of that show. And I feel like the first few,
or something.
yes, and the first few episodes felt very. It was like at the beginning I wanted to like it because I liked the art style, the direction that they went with it, and I thought the first episode was kind of okay. And then like they started like climb. I don't know if it was that show or if it was another show, but it started climbing for the first 3 episodes. It was like, wait a minute, this feels no, it wasn't Disenfranchised. It's another show that the kids are watching, something Owl. I think that might have been on Disney. And it was really woke. It was weird. And it was like for the first 3 episodes, it was like they're not building any story. They're just trying to build around this fact, and they just keep laying it on thick. Like, okay, that's fine, that's nice, but why are you laying this side of it on thick? Like
The Owl House?
Yes, that's what it was. I'm pretty sure it was that show. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Disenfranchised. It was that. Yeah, the owl thing. Watch the first 3 episodes of that series, and it's off-putting. It's like, this is not what I'm signing up for. It's like very woke. I think like the main character she's like a chick, I think, or something. She might be into chicks, and they do some weird stuff, and it's not like that kills it, but when you focus too much on it, it's too heavy. It's put off. It's like a cultural thing, right? I mean, there's certain things that whites do and blacks do and other people do that just we don't. It's not part of our culture. It's not that I hate you because I don't like it. It's my opinion. It's something I don't like, and I'm sure there's things that I do in my culture that you might not like, and I think that's just the disconnect. Just different cultures, different tastes, and I think that's what they're trying to marry. They're trying to get. I mean, obviously TV has been in comics and all kinds of media has been one way for a long time. I will agree. But when your fan base doesn't want that, I don't know who you're writing to. You know what I mean? It just seems
I
kind of
think they're
odd. Like,
writing for themselves. They're writing
yeah,
to themselves.
first and foremost, and in certain aspects, I think that's okay. I've always said, as a game developer, I think the game developer needs to be happy with the product more so than the fans, because if the game developer is not happy with it, does he really have a solid product? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I've
but
always felt that way.
here's the thing. I think a lot of times they're not worried about a solid product. They're not worried about being happy with it. More is like, now I have an
The money.
opportunity to push a message, to teach somebody a lesson, and to right the wrongs, and they go overboard with their writing, and it's very just cheesy, bad dialogue. I'll give you an
Yeah,
example.
everything else suffers from it. I mean, that's not a good, that's not a, if you can work it in a very artistic way and get and draw people in, because your product's going to speak for itself, right? No matter how much you lay on the wokeness or anything like that, if it's solid and it's good, people don't care. People will want more of it. If you bake that stuff in just right, and you're hitting them with something that they just can't put down, people are gonna love it. You don't need to like layer it and layer it and layer it with stuff that it's just off-putting. It's kind of too much. You got to ease people into those situations, especially like straight people, man. You got to ease people into that. Obviously they're not comfortable with the lifestyle. Some people have a problem with it, some people don't care. But if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you need to ease into it instead of just be like hammer it, hammer it, hammer it right at the beginning. It's too much.
Yeah, I think like the last episode of, not the last episode, the previous episode of Hawkeye, the female character, she's like, "Oh, you can't have this bag. My wife gave it to me," and no one, like, there's no like stop, and everyone discusses why she has a wife. It's just like the line is just in there, like naturally, it wasn't like focused on. I think that's how you do it. You just kind of slip things in.
Now we haven't gone and renewed our Disney Plus. We're waiting until the book of Boba Fett comes out or whatever, till like at the beginning of the year. Is that what characters with Hawkeye? I'm not familiar with her,
Kate
and we
Bishop,
haven't seen it. Okay.
She's a newer character that was introduced in the comics.
Oh, okay.
She fangirls over Hawkeye, ends up taking the mantle of Hawkeye for a little while.
Okay.
Well,
Do
they
they have him?
kind of share it.
Do they have him in his like traditional Hawkeye costume in this series? No. Damn it.
There's an Easter egg. They go to a group of LARPers, and one of them is actually wearing it in the background.
Oh, okay, that's cool. See, it just bums me out. I hate when they do that. I've pissed and moaned about this for the whole Wolverine thing. I'd love to see. I know it's such a weird, cheesy. How are you supposed to do it in like a real movie costume? But I just want to see it, man. There's certain things I like the original way the characters look, and when I can see that like translate from comic to TV or cinema, movies, whatever, it's always like one of those. I mean, think about if Iron Man was different. There was nothing different about Iron Man. Iron Man looked like Iron Man. Spider-Man always looks like Spider-Man. Why can't we get some of these other characters to look like they look like?
Some of the costumes were tweaked for Spider-Man, and Iron Man's stuff was a little different from the comics.
But he looks generally the same. I know it's tweaked, but you can't say that Wolverine in any movie looks like Wolverine.
Well, trying to think.
I don't think they ever had him anywhere near what he was in like like cartoon. But the cartoon look was close to his original look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
know
mean, different
Hawkeye.
shades of color, right? But
Hawkeye has his is sort of based on the ultimate version of Hawkeye,
hmm
Mhm.
and he didn't really have a costume in that. He was just kind of wearing black. And so, what do you think about all this Blinded Braille? Do you think that it's a problem with the wokeness, the problem with the just bad writers?
I always say things are complicated because I wanted to make a point about the Superman thing. The reason why this instance of race swapping slightly bothers me is because the intention is really to pander, right? And from someone who, I mean, I am black, right? I'm mixed race. Um, and I don't want to say it like that to justify what I'm about to say. But I just feel like I'd rather have, if you're gonna, DC has a bunch of black characters, right? Why basically just turn Kent into a black character, right?
because
It
I
just
feel I
and they're going to like kind of change around his origin story a little bit. Um, but I just feel like it's not sincere, right? And especially because that article that came out from Hollywood, I think it was the Hollywood Reporter, that came out with this, and they're talking about the intention behind it, and it just doesn't feel genuine. Where I don't normally have a problem with race swapping, but when you're trying to be like, oh, we're gonna create our own Black Panther, it's like you kind of fail to understand why Black Panther was popular in the first place, right? Or popular among the black community, right? Because it was a representation that, a lot. This is one thing that these, I don't know, anti-SJWs kind of get wrong about Black Panther. Um, you know, People aren't saying that it's the first black Marvel movie, right? Or the first black main character. The argument is that Black Panther, it represents the black community in a different light compared to what Hollywood normally portrays, right? Where it's this it's a celebration of, African culture, and you have a character who's this leader, and that's something that typically, the tropes in Hollywood, not saying that this doesn't happen, but normally you have these black characters where they're either slaves, they're either gangsters, and that's a lot of popular Hollywood movies, right? And so when now you come in and you go, okay, we want to recreate a a normally a white character and turn them into a black character, right? And it's not, Val Zod, it's Clark Kent, but he's black, right? That to me, I feel like you're now trying to you are pandering, right? You're trying to be like, hey, listen, in order to get the black audience and to create this, the same sort of um thing that Marvel did with Black Panther and their success, we're going to now do that with Superman, because Superman's a popular character, and making him a black guy would be very empowering. It's just like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, people want to see original characters, right? And Miles Morales is an original character, right? He's a mixed race character, and stuff like that. I don't mind. Though that is more in line with what I don't have an issue with, right? I even race swapping, in general, right? If it's just, hey, we want to make it a little bit diverse, I don't really care, right? But if you're trying to be like, hey, listen, we're going to take a character who we think represents, all these ideologies that aren't true, and race swap him because we're kind of scared to make a character that's white, it just seems a little bit problematic. That's when you start to now involve race in its actual capacity, not what a lot of people claim. And I'm not really too big of a fan of the term woke, because it never is really defined, right? It just sort of means, okay, we're going to add diversity, right? We're going to, which, people say is coded for whatever it may be. I guess you can all fill in the blank, right?
Yeah. Well, to go off what you're saying, I think If your intention is to, empower a particular group of people, I think that's a noble idea, and you go for it. But I think if your
Mhm.
intention is to cash in on a particular group by pandering to them, that's a horrible, horrible thing to do, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mhm.
Well, if you look at it this way, why'd they pick the most popular DC character?
Well, they're picking it because the character's representing something problematic, which is why they're race swapping it, right? That's kind of the crux of that article, right? Is we're going to race swap this character with the intention of race because Superman as a character is kind of problematic because of his race, right? And so it's like it's not that he's problematic, right? Or sorry,
I
not
mean,
not
what's weird is he's not even human though.
he's not well, you got to think this is not so much about this story. This is more about the social commentary surrounding the character,
Right.
right? So that's why I that's I'll link you the article in the group chat, but that's
Was
kind of why they're doing it, which I think is a
was
bad idea.
was there any other like blacks in like the what is he considered? What is Superman considered? Was there other like
Yeah,
Kryptonian.
there are.
oh, okay.
That,
So I
that's
mean
uh, that's how
it's
Vel-Zod becomes Superman in
Mhm.
the other
oh,
Ultimate
okay.
Universe.
Yeah, and they are doing that character as a TV show
So
with
I
Michael
don't
B. Jordan.
understand why not. I mean, I get. Here's the thing: if it's not a cash in, why not go with an original idea and make like a? I know it's hard because it's like obviously Superman's already established. People love him. I'm not a big Superman fan, so I could
Mhm.
care less. But to me, I feel like it's a cash in. I feel like Black Panther was a cash in. I mean, did I care for the movie? I thought it was okay. I'm not particularly crazy about Black Panther, but then again, I was kind of new to him when they introduced him. I wasn't a, like I said, I'm not a big, huge comic book fan. I knew who he was, but then when I got introduced to him, was I like, did I like him more than like what they did with Doctor Strange? I love the Doctors. I loved that character, and I love most of the Marvel characters. I think they're all great. Do I love every single one the same? No. I think some hit high points. I liked what they did with Wakanda and all that stuff, but there was I don't know, there was something off about it to me, and I can't place my finger on it. And it's not like the fact that I'm not like big into the culture and all that stuff. It was something else, and I'd have to go back and rewatch it. But I think if they were not trying to do a cash grab, it would be like, well, why don't we just bring like another Superman type esque character into the fray, and then see if we can work that. Like you said, wouldn't it be nice if they could do something like that and really be successful with it, and then that be there, like there could be um like a different character. I just don't understand why you would go that route. And it doesn't bother me, like I said, because I really don't care about Superman. But um, I think it would be better to do something original. But then again, people got to like it. And if it doesn't like it, it fails and it's off to the dumpster with it. So, I mean, I get it. To me, it feels like a little bit of pandering. It always feels like pandering because it always feels forced. It doesn't feel like, especially when they're doing it now. In the last few years, it's all timed perfectly. Where especially with what you said, it was like what Black Panther represented was a lot different because obviously you had Blade back, back in 2000, whatever. And that was like, I couldn't understand. I worked in a big, heavy area where it was Amazon was in Livonia here in Michigan, and I worked with quite a few. Like I would say, probably 80% of my coworkers were black, and I had a few white friends that worked there. But everybody was talking about the same thing. Like this is and I couldn't understand. I was like, this is the first superhero. I'm like, wait, I mean, Blade was a thing. Did everybody forget about that? Like,
Mhm.
I didn't see the big huge thing, but you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, they brought the culture. They brought a lot of different things into that movie
That's
that will
yeah, yeah, a lot of people I feel like because yeah, my the comment that I'm not sure if it was addressing me, but I'm not saying Black Panther is the first Marvel character that's black to get a movie, right? That's not the claim. I see some people making that claim, but it's not the overall. Those people are not getting the whole point of why it was so celebrated. Is because
Right.
it's about the cult. It's about the black community and portraying more positive. Portraying it in a more positive light, right? And that's why
Right.
it kind of got nominated for an Oscar, is because normally a lot of black movies, right, with predominantly black actors or black directors, it would be about uh racism, slavery, and it's always something negative, right? There's always a negative slant, right? Not to say those movies are bad, but when you're talking about slavery, a lot of black folks, they don't want always to be associated as, oh yeah, your guys's ancestors were slaves, right? And so that's what the point of why Black Panther was popular, right? And because it was popular, now everybody in Hollywood's like, oh, representation, oh, we should do that, right? And so you're going to get more characters representing different cultures or different lifestyles or whatever it may be, because of that movie, right? But I think they kind of don't understand that you can't always create a Black Panther. And so Warner Brothers is trying to recreate that by doing that with Superman, because of the quote unquote problematic aspect of his race, right? In our society, which isn't true. It's a made up argument, right? So that's what I'm saying. It is very complex, right? Because it's not. I'm not really picking a side here, right? And I know a lot of people tend to do that, but it's way more nuanced than just saying, okay, this is woke and this is, oh yeah, I want this because it's about minorities or whatever it may be, right? It's somewhere more in between, right? So that's my take. Sorry to cut you off.
To me, I think woke is all about intention and the reasoning. I'll give a perfect example. If I were making a movie set in, let's say, Europe, 1600s, right? Making a movie, and I need some extras for the movie. I need 100 extras, and I say I got to make sure that there's at least 30 black people that get hired as extras. I would think that's forced diversity. You're specifically trying to get this to create this image, right? Versus if you said, hey, the next 100 people that show up, I'm going to give them the job as extras, no matter what race they are. And if they just happen to be, some black people, some Latino people, some Asian people, whatever, we just needed 100 extras, just whatever, first 100 that come in. I think that's the difference. Like, one is you're intentionally trying to create this narrative, and the other one you're just like, well, whatever. I just need people to fucking work. And I think that's the problem. Like you said, they're trying to create a Black Panther. They're not. It's not an organic, to steal a Mad Max term. It's not an organic thing that we're like, well, we have this character that's a black character, and we're gonna make a movie on him and build him up in the DC version. Because Black Panther, let's face it. Until the MCU movie, he wasn't really A-list character.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no.
They made the movie. It was like Gary said. I didn't think it was a great movie. It was a decent movie.
Yeah, and I feel the same way too.
They changed some stuff from the comics I didn't like. Wasn't too happy.
I definitely thought he looked good on screen. I definitely liked the way he looked. Like, it always comes down to the way they look. You know what I mean? I thought like his costume was awesome. I think whoever did his the design on that, and I think they did a fantastic job to bring it to life. But yeah, it was just average. It didn't blow me away. And see, I think there were certain movies in the whole the whole line of movies there that were, some people don't like at all. I thought Thor Ragnarok was super solid. I think that was the best Thor. I think that was probably one of the better movies, and that and Doctor Strange, and then probably Guardians was probably the first two Guardians were up there as the best ones. I go back and watch these movies all the time, so I'm constantly seeing new things, and sometimes it changes a little perspective on how I see the movie, and then watching bonus features and some of that stuff can kind of turn your opinion a little bit. But for the most part, it wasn't awful. I mean, I've seen movies that are just you can't even bear to get through 10 minutes. It's an awful movie. It's not a Obviously it's a high budget Hollywood movie. It was good. It wasn't anything super spectacular, but it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is another example. These characters were not A-list characters. They weren't really popular. The movie came out, it hit. Marvel took a chance. The movie hit, and now they're very popular characters. They're A-listers. And I think DC needs to just do the same thing. Look in their catalog, see who would make a good movie, and they want a black character, get a black character from there.
Why not
Build
do
the
a
movie.
Vixen movie? You know what I mean? Vixen is a black female character, right? Making a predominantly black female uh, movie, that would be different, right? But they don't care, I guess. I don't know.
But here's
Yeah,
the thing: was she a sexy type character in the comics? I'm not too
Yeah,
familiar with that character.
she
I,
was a great character, especially on
but here's
the
the thing:
animated
do you
series.
feel like they would be like? Do you feel like that would represent that community really well? Do you think they want to see? I mean,
she was
a
in
lot of this.
the. Wasn't she in the what the hell's that show? The CW
The
show.
live action, yeah, she was. They were trying to make a
Okay,
show with her, and then it didn't go anywhere. It
I
failed.
thought they did make a show, but it was like on the internet only.
Maybe it was that then. I don't. Yeah, they haven't really put too much thought into that character, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
it's funny
If
you
it
guys
was
are
some
talking about
web show.
DC and stuff. I found me some of the figures I was looking for today. Must have restocked on the DC Spin Master line.
Hmm.
Some of those can be kind of hard to find. So
Yeah, like I was saying, where I was gonna say, when they race swap a popular character, they think it's an easy ticket. They think, well, this character is popular, so if we just change the race, now the new character is popular, right? That's how it works. Like it's a transitive
Hmm.
property of just taking the popularity of one character and putting it on another, and that doesn't work. Black Panther isn't just another character that they race swapped. He was created over the years, made books, had storylines, had good writing, and it is hard to create a new character. It is very hard,
Hmm.
especially now with basically anything you come up with, someone's gonna be like, well, that's that shares a origin with such and such character, or he got the
right,
powers of that character.
Hmm.
So
feels
it
like
is
a
difficult.
variation on somebody else.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But at the very least, you come up with something, put a unique spin on it. Don't like all of a sudden, like if there's a new Latino character, he doesn't need to be the best, and everybody in the Marvel universe is like, oh my god, we need Latino man to help us, right? Just ease them in naturally,
Hmm.
like you would any other character. Treat them like any other character. That's, I think, the key. And if the audience connects with it and the audience likes it, then you build it up and you keep going slowly but surely.
Hmm.
Superman was not instantly popular. It wasn't like, hey, Superman fucking quit. They took off running. No, they had to build storylines until he became popular. And I
Hmm.
think they don't want to wait. It's just like we want a shortcut and we want it now. Uh, give us what we want.
Hmm. That's the problem with Hollywood in general, right? They see something that's popular and then they want to recreate it, and that's what's happening now with Black Panther.
Yeah, and I think you have two separate groups. You have the Hollywood suits that they just want to make money. They're not.
Hmm.
They don't care about your culture. They don't care about your struggle. They're not trying to raise you up in any way. They just want your money. Okay, just
Hmm.
realize that, people. They just want your money. Then you have the group that wants the representation. They want I want to see myself on the screen. I want to experience what other people have experienced. And they're being used by the Hollywood types as a shield. They're like, hey, we're going to pander to that group. And if you say anything about us just trying to exploit them for money, well, then they're going to attack you on Twitter and you'll be canceled.
Hmm.
I mean,
Baldwin Bob
to
Ross, Latino man drives a lowrider. That's correct. Chain wheel, little chain. Do you know why there's a little chain wheel on lowriders?
No.
It's the only way
what's
you
the
can drive
chain?
with handcuffs on.
Wait, say it again.
The reason they got little chain wheels on lowriders is because that's the only
Oh,
way
you're
you can
talking about the
drive with.
steering wheel.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Who handcuffs themselves to the wheel?
I said with handcuffs on. Never mind.
With I'm missing it. What am I? Oh, okay. I got you. Never mind. I got you. It took me a minute. That's awful, Tony.
Yeah, but I'm allowed to say it. I'm Latino. I can get away with that joke.
What joke can I make? Damn it!
I don't know. Hassan just got kicked off of Twitch for saying cracker. I think you can say cracker.
I heard. Yeah, I heard that guy's an asshole. Whatever. Isn't that he's like that's the nephew of what's his name, right?
Chenk. Yeah, Chenk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Don't agree with their politics. Don't want to get me into that subject.
Either way, I think this is an interesting subject. This is an interesting topic. I mean, I did have a little tiff with somebody over tokenism.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did catch your. I caught a little bit of that, and I did was last night while I was trying to catch up was rewatching the Saturday show. So I watched a little bit here and there, and everybody's been thinking, "Where am I at?" And it like legitimate has been. I've been in Pokemon quarantine for 2 weeks. I have literally, I've literally let the food go bad in the fridge. The old lady's haven't been cooked for like the last like 2 weeks. She's pissed off at me, and I've plowed through like 120 hours.
Oh man.
I've invested, so I turned off like all the devices. I was like, I told her when it happened, I was like, babe, you don't know me. When Pokemon comes out, I'm gonna be like invested into it, and
Oh.
I've been highly invested into that. It's one of my favorite series, so that's where I've been.
We've rescued Gary from his Pokemon hell.
That's right.
Yeah, but I think pandering is never good. Tokenism, as defined by the dictionary, means unimportant, symbolic gesture. Lost Gary.
Oh.
So I think that there is a difference there. You got to recognize it. You got to realize what it is. But yeah, pandering isn't good. In the female Thor, Jane Foster Thor comics, the writing was so bad that they literally had all the text blacked out and then just the words like random thoughts on Israel, misogyny,
Mm.
racist statement. And that was how they wrote the characters of the bad guys. I think it just speaks to the fact that writers nowadays, they're just lazy. They're not good. And Marvel really doesn't care about the comic industry. They just want to hold on to the
No.
IP. So they just lowball, get some, the worst writers, the worst artists, pay
I mean,
shit wages.
there's still some good comics, right? And I think they're only keeping it afloat because this is another hot take, but I don't really think Marvel Studios is all that original. They definitely steal a lot from the comics, right? They don't really come up with new storylines per se. So I think that's why they keep the comics around.
Yeah, definitely. They do borrow heavily from the comics, but I mean that's sort of expected and sort of what you want, though. At the same time,
Mhm. But I mean, like for new, like they're already starting to take from newer comics, right? So it's like, why not, go a different route than following the comics, one for one. You kind of already, if you're going to introduce obviously more popular characters like X-Men, Fantastic Four, that makes sense, right? But Ironheart wasn't that well received, right? She was, again, I feel like trying to be more like Miles Morales but failing at it, right? So yeah, I kind of wish Marvel Studios was a bit more creative with these characters. You're super popular, no one's paying attention to the comics recently, just do your own thing, right? So
I think that's the problem. I think that just everything's been done before, and that's the real issue. Is that they need to get some talent in there. You need some guys that are gonna change kind of the face of the studio, because it does need to take. Essentially, we're gonna get to the point where what's left to go up on the big screen? I don't know. Were they supposed to do like She-Hulk and all this stuff? Other stuff was supposed to come out, like all these women of Marvel and stuff.
Well, they
yeah,
have a
they're still
trailer for
doing
the
that.
She-Hulk that's coming out.
So where are you going to go after probably that? Like, where are they going to go in the next? They got probably 5 years worth of shit, but in 10 years, where are they going to be at? They've been around for a long time, so they definitely have to make some moves and get some guys in there that are going to breathe life into it, because I still think that they probably got a lot of guys that have probably have been around, and maybe guys that have rubbed off on other guys throughout the years and stuff, and they just need some really good fresh blood in, though. I think that's what they need.
Yeah, this is gonna be a hot take. Here's my hot take. I think that the MCU needs to do more TV shows and less movies. I think the movies should be special events, big, spectacular events, things like the Avengers movie, Civil War, Infinity War, things like that. And I think introducing the characters, plotting out their whole backstory and their whole story arcs, these need to be done over a TV series, because there's so much there, and it's just basically like from Spider-Man 1, say Homecoming, to Spider-Man Far From Home. It's like nothing's really happened. He hasn't changed. There's no character growth between those two movies.
Yeah, comics are serialized stories, so it makes sense. Like I don't think that's a hot take. I would agree with that, but I'm sure others won't. But
do you think Spider-Man the third one's going to be the same? Because I don't really see it changing either. Where are they really going to go with him?
They're just going to make him into the Spider-Man that people want. That's what it seems like.
Well, I don't even think
that's
that.
been a big complaint.
There's going to be little to no actual character growth, no consequences from the previous movies. Just basic, a plot. Plot is overcome. Movie ends. Everyone applauds.
That always works, but I know people want to see like characters fail, but I'll tell you what. Endgame was one of my least favorite movies. Well, they did overcome. They do overcome it, but it's weird because I feel like in Infinity War, whatever, was really good, even though they ended that on. I guess you're right in a sense. As long as they do it right, I felt like Endgame was so awful in them trying to cram it like all ramped up, and it was, and I think mainly because I hated what they did to Hulk. It really soured me, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say if that would work, if they would do more of these heroes that failed, end a movie on a fail. It's hard to do end a movie on a downer. People don't like that. And that's why you get a lot of these characters overcoming. And it ends up being the same thing every time you see a new superhero movie. It's like the same thing.
That's why you need a TV show. So he can fail three episodes in, go up.
Right. And I think you're right. I think that the series is the way to go. I think, within the last few years, that's been the go-to, right? I think that's why they're coming out with all these Star Wars sagas. All this shit's coming out on episodes. The best way to do it. I don't know if it's more expensive or less expensive, but I definitely like that idea of doing it, ramping it up, getting these characters developed, and then coming out with like the movie that just encases all of it. I think it's a good idea.
Because like I said, there's no character growth. There's no familiarity with the character. You don't have anything going on. It's always like, oh, here's the biggest villain, and now he's dead, and that's the end of it. And, Whereas you build up the character, build up the backstory of the villain over the course of a series, then end it on a cliffhanger, throw in a movie, you get the big fight, you get all the big action and everything. You don't really need to focus on the characters because you already told it in the TV series. But they'll never do that. That don't make no
It's
money.
definitely tricky. I guess that's why I'm not in the business.
Yeah. Even like Endgame. Endgame, I think, was complete garbage. Remember, I'm a huge Marvel fan, so don't kill me, guys. But Endgame was garbage. The whole idea of a time travel heist was stupid. It should have never been done.
Very stupid.
They had a 5-year gap, and they did not introduce a single new superhero. So for 5 years, a lot of the superheroes disappear, and no one stepped up in that time period to take up, take up the slack and be a new superhero. And hey, Spider-Man's gone, so now I need to police New York or something. You have so many characters that you could introduce. The new Warriors. Moon Knight could have been introduced in that time frame.
Oh, Moon Knight would have been great.
Time frame. And then you could have shown new characters at the end of Endgame fighting alongside the old characters in that big epic battle. And then you could go back in the TV series and say, all right, well, here's what happened. Here's where that character came from, and here's their story arc in that 5-year gap. And this gives you a whole area to play with where, there's nothing that it's undocumented territory, basically. They're going to have Adam Warlock P.O. Box Christmas coming out in the next Guardians movie. On top of that, like I said, the time heist was dumb. That should have never been done. The idea that Thanos gets killed only for them to bring back another Thanos that they have to fight again was monumentally stupid.
Yeah, that was dumb. That was really dumb.
Also, they basically they tell you in the movie, they say, if you take something from the past, it creates a divergent timeline, right? And then they take...
Didn't they fuck it up in Loki?
No, but even in Endgame itself, right? So they said if you take the Infinity Stone, it'll create a divergent timeline. That there's no Infinity Stone in that timeline, and your timeline continues on. And that's why it fucks it all up, right? But when Thanos came from his timeline and went to the future, they didn't have to take him and send him back to fix it, so there would only be one timeline again. They just kind of didn't say anything about it. Because remember, Thanos was killed on the Garden Planet by Thor. Then they did the time heist. And then past Thanos found out from future Nebula what was going on. And
right, and he steps through.
And he went to the future. So he would create a universe where Thanos didn't collect the Infinity Gems because he fucked off and disappeared. But no one said anything about it.
I think that Thanos was from 2014.
Irregardless, he created a universe where now Thanos disappeared in 2014.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense what he's saying. It's definitely a plot hole.
Hey, Wiley, what's up?
Hey.
There's so many plot holes in that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So what happens to that universe? Yeah.
And then Gamora from that universe comes over, and she fucking takes off at the end of the movie, right? We're to assume that they're eventually going to catch up with her, and she's going to join the Guardians, right? We could probably, that's a safe bet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, they have to, right?
So again, they can't have her in there.
Right. So again, you have this time fugitive from another universe that's just going to be in our universe, and it's going to be like, don't worry about it, guys. Don't say nothing.
Yeah, and all of her character development is gone, right? Because that Gamora is a clean slate.
Yeah.
And she feels like, have you guys ever watched what was it, Beer League or with the guys from Super Troopers?
Beer Fest,
where they kill the fat dude and he comes back at the end. Like, oh, I'm just the brother. That's what it felt like to me. It was just so cheap.
But that was his brother. That was a joke, and that was funny as hell.
I know, but that's what it feels like to me. It was just like, oh, well, fuck, we forget about what just happened 20 minutes ago. Yeah, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. That's what it felt like to
The
me.
best part of that though is after he introduces himself, he's like, "I'm his brother." He's like, "But in order for me to feel like part of the team, and so that way you guys don't have to feel weird, I just want you to call me Landfill and pretend like I'm the first
Right.
guy." And it's like pretty much never brought up again.
Oh man.
I love that movie. I got it on fucking
That's
DVD.
such a great movie. You
I,
boys want some sausages?
I watched the fucking. That's the only movie that I've watched the director's commentary on.
Who was that? The what was it? The name of their group, the Broken Lizard Group or
Yeah,
club or whatever. They did
Broken Lizard.
another good. They did another decent one. I liked. They had like a horror island movie that was pretty funny.
Club
I
Dread.
found it pretty funny. Yeah, there you go. I thought that was pretty good.
I've seen all their movies. I seen their original, their first movie, Puddle Cruiser. That shit's
Hmm.
pretty.
I didn't see Super Troopers 2 yet. Was that done by them too? Or did they all
Yeah,
reprise their roles?
yeah, it wasn't as good. It was kind of a letdown.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I haven't seen it yet.
What about you, Blinded Braille? Are you a Beer Fest fan, Super Trooper fan?
No, I haven't actually watched it. No.
Oh, Beer Fest is great. Beer Fest is hilarious.
And with that note, Blinded Braille is being kicked off. Well, we've been at it for almost 2 hours. I didn't think we were going to get this far on one and a half topics. Somehow, we have a second Blinded Braille joining us.
Oh, what the heck? I swiped because I'm on my phone. Oh, that's weird.
We have a second.
I don't even know what happened.
I removed the original.
Okay, yeah, that was my doppelganger. Everything he said was bullshit.
Yeah, that was just weird.
Tony did that just to move me in the second slot.
Oh man.
Gary got a slap back. I'm surprised Carl didn't check in. That was weird. P.O. Box says, I feel like for the people who hated the time travel hijinks of Endgame, it's going to only get worse with Spider-Man, Strange, Scarlet Witch, and the multiverse. It wasn't so much the hijinks. In the comics, the Infinity Stones are eventually being guarded or used by the Elders of the Universe. I think they could have incorporated that in the movie. Instead of them just like, oh, here's a stone, picked it up. All right, let's fuck off now. They could have like, oh shit, I got to take that stone from that guy, or now we got to take the stone from that guy. You could have had little mini battles, mini bosses, if you will, in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been fun to see them fight like Adam Warlock or something.
On top of that, again, time travel is always messy, so they shouldn't have done that. And instead of time travel, my theory, my preferred version of the movie would be Thanos couldn't destroy the stones. The universe wouldn't allow it. So instead, he just sends them to the ends of the universe. Like he just, so basically,
or he hid them somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
not even hid.
He just sent them away. Right. And so Tony Stark's like, hey, I can track them. I know where they're at, guys. And they're like, all right, let's go get them. And he's like, well, we can't. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, well, they're so far away that we can't get to them. Like, by the time we travel to them and come back, the Earth will be dead. Like, even going at light speed, fucking, it'll be like 100 years, And then, so that's why they give up. That was like, well, we can't get them because they're too far away. So they give up. Then,
I mean,
Ant-Man comes back, and you find out, well, wait a minute. If you travel through the quantum universe, we could use like a wormhole that'll make us travel further. So we could actually reach those points in space by going through the quantum verse and out the other end. So same basic concept, but no time travel. And now you find out that, well, when these fucking gems went out, people collected them, and now we got to fight these guys.
I think they should have just said, instead of calling it time travel, just do universe hopping. I think that would have just solved the problem, and you could still have the fun of the heist, because I think that was kind of their idea, that they wanted to go back to these key events in the MCU. But I think the time travel and killing off Thanos, I think, was a big mistake. I think it just overcomplicates the story and it loses a bit of the personal sort of redemption arc for characters like Thor, right? Because Thor doesn't even get to end up killing Thanos, right? That should have been something he did, or like maybe he was the one that did the snap. I just think a lot of it is poorly written. Yeah.
Chappie McCapture says it's like how do we connect with this blinded braille? It's like the new Gamora. It's a good point. This new alternate reality blinded braille who's joined us.
The old one died off.
Yeah. I always thought what was weird for me was when they said that the snap caused gamma radiation. And they made a big deal like the Hulk's the only one because he's going to absorb the gamma radiation, right?
Yeah, they did somewhat explain that. I just think it ruins the art.
Hear me out. When Tony Stark snaps, they would all die from the radiation.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Point at the beginning of the movie, and then they just forget it by the end. Like,
oh yeah, that is good.
Remember, because they're like all hiding behind shields and like
shields and stuff. Yeah,
and they even make a thing that like the Earth was enveloped in a huge gamma wave when he snapped, and like that's how they tracked him to the other planet because there was a second gamma wave on that planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tony Stark snaps, and there's like nothing. Not even.
I mean,
hey guys, I snapped, and I wish that the gamma wave wouldn't happen. There's some bullshit, like some hokum, but nothing.
Yeah. I just felt like the whole time heist was just a way to debate, like kind of bait and switch, pull the rug right out from under you, right? You just when you kind of think that like, oh, everything's gonna be all fine and dandy at the end of this movie, they pull the wait. You come to a realization when you're in that movie at like, oh, they're gonna go back and get these movies, and you're like, shit, who's gonna die when they go to Vormir? Like. I felt like it was like, oh, success. Let's really kill somebody, and it felt cheap to me, and I didn't like it. I feel like part of it was like you're destroying, especially you had to throw in the Back to the Future line. Like you're like, wait, everything I knew about time travel is just wrong. I think I remember sitting in the theater like that pissed me off. It was like, why are we doing this? Like, I was like, what?
Hold on for a second. I gotta address this. P.O. Box Christmas says Tony had an arc reactor to absorb the radiation. But his hand was by his face when he snapped. Tony Stark's face should have been like melted.
Well, they couldn't do that, I think, for the effect of
the kids would cry.
Well, they did it for the effect that I'd have to go back and watch it, but do you realize he's dead right after or does it take they're like a second sets in like he's dead?
No, it takes a while. Remember, like they all come to him and like they talk to him and
yeah. So I think they did that for just for the movies. Well, not for dramatic effect, but so that people would pick up on like. I mean, I guess yeah, it's dramatic effect. Like you're and in that second you don't realize he's dead. I knew going in because. That whole rumor was going around, and I fucking got spoilers, and it was like someone sent a stupid meme and got to the bottom of the meme. It had nothing to do with Endgame, and it was like, oh yeah, by the way, Tony Stark dies in the movie, and I was like, you fucking kidding me? So I knew going in he was gonna die. I still knew before that going in that either Captain America or Tony Stark was gonna die. I knew it was gonna happen. I just didn't know which one was going to die. So I think the people who weren't invested and who weren't like, going back and forth on the internet and who weren't invested into it, those people might have been like shocked. But even if I didn't find out the spoiler, I instantly knew whoever was going to ultimately have that at the end was going to die because I knew that's where it was going. Obviously, we all had theories, and some people were pretty close. But at the end of it just felt all cheap. I mean, the whole theater, I don't know if you guys seen it in the theater, but like a lot of people in the theater were crying. when Stark died. Like a lot of people.
No one in my theater cried. I want to get to this comment real quick. Peelbox Christmas says they almost went with the scene of Thanos showing up and dropping Captain America's head right in front of the Avengers. That would have been a little much for a Disney film.
Would you have been blown away?
No, it would have been like, it's kind of weird.
Too much?
Chappie says maybe they had a hokum suit. Yeah, it's too much hokum. It's my new word. He says that the time stuff felt weak because they basically nerfed everybody. Hulk and Thor went all weak. Cap was making jokes about his own ass, and Iron Man's daddy issues resurfaced. Too much side drama.
I thought the Captain America joke was pretty funny.
It was all right. It was an okay joke, but I do think they constantly, ever since the first Avengers, like the Hulk basically smacks the shit out of Loki, and it's like, yeah, the Hulk can do anything. Then it's like, now what do we do from here because the Hulk's too strong?
Yeah.
And they just
and it pissed me off. But here's the thing. I think they could have still done the same thing, but they didn't have to take him out in the first 5 minutes of the movie. That's what ultimately pissed me off.
Movies.
Huh?
They took him out in both movies. In Infinity War, they take him out, and then in Endgame, he gets taken out when his hand is all fucked up.
Well, I understand, but here's the thing: when you go from Infinity War, he's Hulk. He's the Hulk you love. Then you go to Professor Hulk, which I'm so disconnected from. It's a character that makes no sense to me. It's a character that it totally goes against the whole brains and you can't. I don't think personally you can have both. To me, it makes no sense. You can't because the whole point of Hulk. So we've gone over this before, Tony. I understand.
I'm a big guy who has both brains and brawn.
But what they build him up as, and then they try to be like, well, I took both the best. You can't take in my opinion, because your rage, you're like super strong because you have no like control. As soon as you gain that control, how the hell are you still a super strong? It goes against like how I view the Hulk. I know there's been what we've talked about in the past that he's obviously been able to do those things to be able to do that. And
there's different levels, or like you could think of like Bruce Banner's psyche as like an iceberg, but they don't really go into that in the movies. So I think, yeah, a lot of it is rushed in my opinion.
Well, here's a better thing. Just on these, from Thor Ragnarok and the last two Avengers movies, we're given a very, very clear understanding that Bruce Banner and the Hulk are two different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Banner clearly tells us in Ragnarok that he felt like he was asleep. The Hulk was in control, and he was asleep for like 5 years, 6, whatever the hell it was, when he was on the planet being a gladiator. So now, when he's the Professor Hulk, he's obviously Bruce Banner in mind, and Hulk in body. Does that mean that the Hulk personality is somehow suppressed?
But here's the thing: when he goes, when they finally go, here's what sells it: that he is not as strong as he was. He goes into.
That's not a question. He's the Professor Hulk has never been as strong as the original Hulk.
Oh, okay.
Because he's not really Hulk technically.
They basically said it like this in the comics. The original Hulk, will call him Child Hulk, the childlike Hulk. He starts off at, say, 80 tons is his base strength. He then gets mad and his strength increases to a uncalculable level. Like he just keeps going up. Like they just fucking gave up on trying to decide how strong he was. Whereas the Professor Hulk starts at 100 and never changes.
I mean, that makes more sense. I guess I misunderstood you when we talked about this a couple months back, because that's my understanding is like you're now giving him a conscience pretty much and decision making, and like he goes when they finally warp back into the past or whatever, he's like, I don't want to smash, and so he goes around there like Hulk smash, and he's just like barely hitting because it's not what he wants to do. It's not who he wants to be.
Because he's not the Hulk. He's Bruce Banner.
Right, right. But you know, when you're watching that, and if you're not like into the comics, and you're like, what the fuck did they do to him? I mean, you're totally taking the character that I loved and giving us. It's basically like you've said, like creating a new character, and we're this new character's dropped on us, and we don't know how to feel about him. At least that's how I felt when seeing him. It's just like, really, this is what we're gonna get in the last two movies to finalize this and wrap this up. Is Hulk is irrelevant,
Well, he's
and
coming
he's
back
Yeah,
as
he's
the
coming back.
original Hulk in the She-Hulk series.
oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's cool. But
Because
you know what I meant though, like wrapping up
yeah,
this whole arc with Thanos and the Infinity Stones, the whole thing. It just feels like all of a sudden, instantly, we're dropped with this new character that's like not what we like. At least not what I wanted. That's how I felt about it, and I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of like I think part of it's the Hulk, part of it's like maybe the length of the film. It was too long, and then part of it's the time heist, and it's
And
like
it was also long because, I mean, they really didn't wrap up these storylines or set them up properly. Like, if you think about it, Thanos was introduced in the original Avengers, but it took
right,
6 years to actually give him the development needed to be a serious threat. Like, we always knew, oh, he's going to be a big villain, but they never actually developed him. He was just like a
right.
side thing, right? Like in Guardians, and it's so I feel like they've done that in general, like speaking like to other characters instead of actually like for another character that should have gotten a proper arc, a send off was Star Lord. Like Star Lord just gets dusted. Meanwhile, he was the only character who one he failed against Thanos twice, right? He just lost Gamora. On top of that, too, he has loose connections on Earth with his grandfather, which was kind of hinted at the end of Volume 2, and nothing. He just gets dusted, right? So it's like there's so many characters who they just undershafted their arc when it was ripe for that movie, right?
yeah, we didn't even
Um,
get a Thanos Drax fight, and
yeah.
Drax's whole character in the comics was that he was created as a weapon to be used against Thanos.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
think they rushed. I think even though yes, this is all 11 years, that they planned it out and made these movies, but you could tell that it wasn't a coherent story. Like they didn't really know that if this was going to be something they were going to do, right? They kind of just have to go, well,
yeah.
we did this in the last movie,
Well, they
so
winged it,
here's
right?
yeah, right?
To go off of this comment, PO Box Christmas says Professor Hulk was too silly acting. That was the real issue for me. Well, here's sort of the thing, and I hope this is what they're trying to do. In the comics, um, Doc Samson, a therapist slash superhero, they decide that the Hulk's too dangerous. Right? Something's got to be done about the Hulk. So Bruce Banner is put into therapy, and he's basically trying to help him work through his problems. So eventually, they uh, unite all three personalities: the original childlike Hulk, the teenage Gray Hulk, and Bruce Banner. And they create the Professor Hulk. But eventually, we find out that's not true. That the Professor Hulk is slightly different than Bruce Banner. He's not exactly what you would expect because he's actually a creation by Doc Samson. That he
Hmm.
basically used his therapy powers to create a new persona within Bruce Banner's mind, and that is the Professor Hulk. And he's basically locked away all the other personalities.
Hmm.
This
I
personality,
wish they added Doc Samus to the movies.
huh? What's
He's a
that?
cool character. Doc Samus, like I wish they added him to the movies. He's such a
Well,
cool
he's
character.
in the Ed Norton Hulk movie.
Wasn't I can't remember who played him. It was like a
Ty
little
Burrell.
side thing.
That was the dude from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, wasn't it?
No, that's the dude from Modern Family, Ty Burrell.
Oh,
Oh,
I know.
I'm thinking of the other dude, right? Who was the dude that I'm thinking of? The dude with who was the dude that from Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Let me look that up.
John Turturro.
No, the other guy. Who's the guy that plays Wilmer or whatever? Gilmer.
Oh, yeah,
I
the,
can't
the guy who played Sam Stearns. He played the bad guy, the guy who had the stuff drip on his head, the leader,
Yeah. They never turned him into
Oh,
the fuck's his name? I can't remember.
the leader.
the leader,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, in
Megamind.
the
I like to call him
comics,
Megamind.
Make a mind.
in the comics, after he becomes the Professor Hulk, eventually in the future, he becomes an evil ruler of Earth called the Maestro, and that
There you
was
go.
due
Yeah.
to absorbing extra radiation. So I'm hoping all the talk about gamma radiation from the Infinity Gauntlet creating this new Hulk persona, I'm hoping that it's leading to a actual Maestro Hulk, you know, versus the Avengers type situation.
Yeah, that
Because
would be cool.
we never really get to see the Hulk in all his glory, like in the comics, where he's basically fighting the entire Marvel universe and they can't stop him.
Mm. Mm.
Well, it's been 2 hours and 16 minutes, way longer than I thought we were going to go. We didn't cover anything but some comic books and some discussion. I think it was pretty good for a random Wednesday stream. What do you guys think? Is this something we should do regularly, or?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I
Add
like
it
the
to the
conversation.
repertoire.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, sticking with us through all our ups and downs, through all our wacky adventures. We will be having something special on Christmas Day. If you got nothing to do, if your family is driving you nuts and you just want to hide out and watch some YouTube, we will have something for you, and it will be good and it will be awesome, and you will thank me for it, and you will tell all your friends, and they will subscribe, and the channel will grow, or not. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-mm.
But love, peace, booty grease. We out this.